Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, the podcast where pet parents, pet guardians, and pet professionals come together to dive into real issues in dog parenting. From controversial training methods to sensitive health topics, we're getting raw and real about what it means to care for our canine companions. Join us every Wednesday for unfiltered conversations, expert insights, and personal stories that will make you laugh, cry, and grow as a pet parent. No topic is off limits and no question goes unanswered. You won't get one perspective here. You'll get them all because every dog is different and every human is too. You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and we're back again this week with another amazing guest. This week we have Caitlin, who's here to tell us kind of a crazy story about what happened when she decided to start fostering. How are you doing tonight, Caitlin?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have you here tonight. You have a very kind of unique story and experience when it comes to the fostering world, but I also think that it's kind of a story that will help spread a little bit of awareness to some of the listeners and hopefully some people who are interested in fostering and get them to maybe ask a few more questions so that what happened to you doesn't happen to them. But to start off, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit about you, your dogs, anything you want to share?
Okay, well, my name is Caitlin. I currently work as a bartender, so I work night shift only, and I have a lot of free time during the day. So I figured, why don't I make the best of it and try to continue fostering? I had fostered one dog already and adopted her. I call her my foster win because we don't like to use the word fail for her. She's amazing. So I have 2 dogs total and was hoping to change another dog's life and another human's life because Tater Tot has completely changed my life for the better. And I know the impact of having a dog and how that can really improve someone's quality of life.
I completely agree. Dogs are probably one of the most important parts of my day-to-day life. They play a big role in my happiness, my overall happiness, and they just bring me so much joy. Whether it's my dogs or someone else's dogs, I'm always happy to see a dog. I'm that person that's like, oh, there's a dog. I think that we are so lucky to have dogs. I don't think that people understand us, the crazy dog people, right? They don't understand how much joy and love dogs can bring into our world. So I love that you spun it and you use win, a foster win, because it is a win. You're bringing somebody into your home and giving them a new life. So I think that that's an awesome way to look at it. And also you have such a positive outlook on not just helping the dog, but helping the person too. I think that that's really great. So let's talk about Ruby. Why don't you tell the listeners about Ruby and just the whole story, because it is kind of a wild story. I'm going to let you tell it because there's a lot to it.
Okay, I'll start from the beginning. The part that most people don't know is I hit a little bit of a rough patch. I had a few people let me down, so I was feeling a little down. And I wanted to foster again because it's very rewarding, as I said. And I saw Ruby on a Facebook post. There was only one photo of her at the time. And looking at that photo, she looked short, small. She was very underweight. She was cute, white with floppy ears. I thought she would look perfect with my 2 other dogs, right? My dogs don't have floppy ears. They're brown and black. And she was perfect to me. I was like, I think she'll fit in with Tot as long as she's small. So I reached out to them. She was on the euthanasia list and I had about a day to commit. And of course, in this gloomy moment of my life, I was thinking this was the perfect way to feel better, keep myself occupied, do a little good. I'll commit. Let's do it. Unfortunately, they didn't have a sponsor for her to be fostered. So they set me up with a rescue that's actually based in New Jersey. And this is a foster only rescue. They have no actual building. I'm living in North Carolina. So to me, knowing now, this is a huge red flag because if anything happens, there's absolutely no backup support. The 2 ladies running the rescue lived up in New Jersey. They couldn't come help me if anything happened. There was nowhere for the dog to go back to if I could no longer foster, but I didn't want to back out. So I committed to it anyway. And I was just thinking, we'll figure it out. Let's just give it a shot. What could go wrong? Turns out a lot.
Famous last words, right? What could go wrong? Famous last words.
Yes, absolutely. I was connected with the rescue and I spoke with the two ladies. It was a group phone call. They asked me if I would be able to pay for her food and toys and purchase a crate for her. I already spent a lot of money at Tractor Supply, so I had coupons for Tractor Supply. I get the crate, I have food already. But as I said, I thought she was a much smaller dog. I didn't think she would be eating too much. I get everything prepared in the house. They agreed to cover vet bills, which down the road they ended up not being able to cover. And she was heartworm positive and she still needed other shots to be around my dogs as well, just for my own comfort level, because my dogs have had medical issues in the past. I wanted her to also have all the shots necessary, get her looked at by a vet. So none of that had been done. I go to pick her up and I was expecting a short dog, very calm, probably shy because I'm still new to this. My two dogs are both very reserved and shy around strangers. They're very hesitant to meet you. And Ruby was the complete opposite. I walk up to her, and compared to my dog, she looks like a miniature pony. She's tall. She jumped in my face. She licked me. She was like, hey. She was jumping all over the place, running to my car, dragging me behind her on the leash, like, let's go for a ride. She was so excited and full of life. This was not what I was expecting from the photo of a little tiny dog that was severely underweight. Turns out she had already gained weight since that photo was taken. She was already at a healthy weight by the time I got her, and she was full of energy. I knew immediately when I saw her that Tater Tot would not get along with her. He likes dogs his size and smaller. That's what he gets along with. I know that time and time again, he gets along with dogs that are female and about his size range. She was so much taller than him. But again, here I am. I already committed. What am I supposed to do? Say, oh, sorry, just kidding. I'm not taking her. I just try not to panic, get in the car. I'm gonna, wing it, right? I already committed. I don't know what else to do. So I get home and I tell the rescue, the ladies up in New Jersey, the situation, and they're like, well, hopefully, eventually it'll all work out for you and they'll all get along. And I'm trying not to panic, but I knew deep down it was not going to work out too well.
It's so hard when you're looking at dogs online like that. That's why it's so difficult. And we've talked about this on other episodes, especially with we're rehoming this litter of puppies, or the dog looks like this, or whatever, and they don't give size or dimensions or weight or anything because a camera angle can change everything, right? Like you can't tell how big or small a dog is based on just a photo.
Right. And her weight listed on the post was 34 pounds. She
Right.
was closer to 50 or 60 by the time I got her.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
She plumped up quickly and she was much taller. Camera was angled downwards at her, so I thought she was about the size of Tot. And at 34 pounds, she would weigh, obviously, she needed to gain weight from that photo, which I was understanding, but she would have been about the size of my other dog, Sweet Pea. I thought they would be the perfect trio.
I mean, you were definitely going for the range of color there, right? You had like the
Yes.
aesthetic going. Sure, I get it. I totally get it. And that, I mean, that's the thing. There are people that have a certain kind of dog in every color because they like the breed, they want the range of colors. It's an aesthetic. And it's okay. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for some people. And unfortunately, now we found out that Ruby is not a good fit because she's going to be too spunky for Tot. And so now you have her, and she's heartworm positive and she needs other vaccinations. So what did you do?
So we came home, and I have an extra bedroom in my house that I rent. So she had her own room and she had her own crate that she was crafty enough to break out of multiple times. She didn't like to be left alone. What dog does? But obviously, I'm in the crate rotate situation. So she does have to be left alone for parts of the time during the day and when I'm at work at night. We did need to use a lot of CBD because being heartworm positive, she needed to be calm. And as I've explained, Ruby is the complete opposite. So I reached out to the rescue asking about getting her heartworm treatment done, knowing that it's very difficult for me to keep her calm. She needed training. She was very leash reactive and she was not food motivated. Both of my dogs were very food motivated, and that's how I train my dogs. I had no idea what to do with a dog that was yanking me down the road and would not take food from my hand. When I reached out to them, the heartworm treatment information, they told me they just wanted to put her on a heartworm preventative medication, which I was not familiar this was an option. You put them on doxycycline and then you put them on preventative medication. You have to keep them pretty calm for about a year and hope that all of the heartworms will be dying off on their own and then get her tested after that year. And for a dog who they told me originally was 6 or 7 years old, turns out she was 2. How do you keep a 2-year-old dog full of life that calm for a year? I just felt like it would really impact her quality of life. It was stressing me out beyond belief because I would take her to a store and she ran up to everyone. She thought the whole entire world was her friend. It was her gigantic playground. She would run laps through my house. I have a townhouse, it's 2 floors. She would run down the stairs, run to the couch, run back up the stairs, run down the stairs, jump on the couch. She did zoomies multiple times a day. And they told me, well, just keep her calm. And for the heartworm medication, we actually can't afford it. Do you want to just purchase it yourself as a donation to the rescue instead? Obviously, I did not, but I did not want to just leave her untreated. So I did. Asked if we could get her to the vet. And they told me it was really no big deal. If she was at the shelter, she probably was seen by a vet, but she had a giant patch on her leg that was a bald patch. She had allergies. She had licked it and bit at it so much she had an infection. So I had to get her antibiotics, all of which I paid for. But thankfully, I used my social media to make a GoFundMe. So I did have help paying for those vet bills, getting her the rest of her shots to make sure that no diseases would be transferred between my dogs and her. And then the rescue actually forgot about us for about a month or two. Finally reached back out to me to check in and said, hey, sorry, this fell off the rails. And by that point, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but I was very angry with them and pretty much fed up with their lack of help and lack of keeping to their word. I mean, at least cover the vet bills. I'm already doing the food. And she ate more than my dogs combined.
See, this is the part that just gets me is that they just completely were gone. And you
Mm-hmm.
and I had talked a lot during this time because we talked about the slow kill method and I looked it up and I consulted a vet and we kind of went back and forth and we were both kind of hesitant about that because there's not really any guarantee the worms are going to die off. You just kind of put them on the
Oh,
preventative, keep them on the preventative from that point on, and you hope that the worms die. But they can live indefinitely, even if they're on preventative, because they're already in there, right? So you have no idea. They're growing. Now they're damaging the heart. And you have this dog that's, like you said, her quality of life is completely and totally affected at this point. So now you've got the GoFundMe going, which is great. I'm glad that you had support, were able to get through that part. But you had decided that you maybe want to find her a home, a way to get this treated, and things start shifting around in your life. So now what happens?
now the rescue is back in contact with me and they're not able to help the vet bills. And I told them, hey, no problem. I'm going to make a GoFundMe and I'll work on that. Can you post her on social media? Because I've been posting her, I've been tagging the rescue. Can you please help me find her a home? I don't want to be doing this by myself. I was pretty overwhelmed at this point. I mean, honestly, one person with 3 dogs, that is a lot. But along with the crate rotation and then the financial strain, and my dogs are energetic, she's energetic, I'm getting a little beaten down and discouraged. And the 2 ladies I'm in contact with told me they don't know who runs their social media account, but they're going to try to get her posted. Can you send me photos and a bio about the dog? And I sent it to them multiple times. I kept seeing their accounts were active on social media. Ruby never got posted. And I have a friend on Instagram who sent me a post of a pizza restaurant who posted adoptable dogs on their pizza box. And I haven't told many people this because I don't even know if this is allowed, but I started doing DoorDash on my nights off and taping flyers of Ruby to people's food, along with hanging her flyers up in every Tractor Supply, pet store. As I said, I'm a bartender. So every person who came in the bar had to see photos of her. I sent photos of her to everyone I know and said, hey, can you pass these along? I probably annoyed a ton of people, but I'm now known as the dog lady, which is also fun. I love that. I had no other choice because I knew I couldn't keep her. I knew I wanted better for her and I wanted to get back to life with my dogs because everybody was getting less time because I was spread thin. And I just had to do whatever I could to get her face out there. And that was all I could think of.
I think that that's actually really creative. Going out and advertising yourself as a small business. You pass out flyers, you pass out business cards, you get your name out there. So being able to DoorDash and just be like, here's a little flyer I'm gonna stick in with your food, and I'm a bartender. Let me show you all these photos, or here, have a flyer. I mean, I'm sure that that probably helped get you some exposure, really kind of, get people aware that you are the dog lady, right? So now I'm sure at some point you're going to have somebody come to you and be like, hey, you were that lady that passed out those flyers with the dog you were trying to find a home for. I'm looking for a dog now. Can you help me? I'm sure it'll come full circle at that point. And when it does, I want to know, because that will be a really neat experience, I think, for you to have and to share. So you've done all this stuff trying to find her a home, but it actually kind of twisted up on you and worked out in a way that you didn't expect. You did find her a home, but it wasn't in the way that you were expecting. So why don't you tell everybody how Ruby found a home?
Ruby did find a home with a friend of mine who was helping dog sit her, actually. I had to go to Connecticut, where I'm from, in January. I had a family emergency, and he works at the airport. I forgot to mention this part. He also hung flyers of her all over Charlotte International Airport. So shout out to him for that. They did not work because she stole his heart. So he started dog sitting her while I'm in Connecticut. I came back and was very stressed out. I ended up getting sick. So he said, hey, don't worry about it. She could stay here until you feel better. I'm feeling better. I finally come to pick up the dog. I take her back to my house for probably less than 24 hours, and he asked for her back. He said, I really miss having her around. Now it's really lonely in the house, and she could just stay here. I'll just get her through the heartworm treatments, and then we'll work on finding her a home after she's finished with that. And I mean, it only took a few weeks after that before he finally said to me, I think I'm just going to keep her. I don't want to be without her. I'll be so sad without her, which I kind of figured would happen because everybody gets attached to the dogs, right? That's why they call them foster fails, because once the dog is in your house and you get it used to having them there, how can you part with them? They're part of your life and they do bring so much joy. And he works nights like I do. So it's very easy for him to take her out during the day. They go hiking, they go to dog parks. He has a dog park at his apartment building. She's made new friends now. That's the life I wanted for her that I couldn't do. So it was a relief for me, even when he was dog sitting, because she got that one-on-one attention. And he also had someone else because he's not from Charlotte. So he doesn't have a lot of friends in this area either. So they both really actually needed each other. And it just was such a blessing in disguise.
I love so much that that's how it turned out. I remember when you were going through this and you had gone home and you're like, okay, well, my friend watched her and now I think that he might keep her. And then over the course of that week we talked and you were like, yeah, he's going to keep her. Now you've connected these two together and you've made this little family. So you did have another foster win, right? Because you went from fostering her to having somebody help you foster her, and then having a foster win because he decided, you know what, she's taken my heart and I love having her here. And so you did exactly what you set out to do. But on top of that, now you get to be a part of her recovery because he does decide to get the heartworm taken care of for her.
Correct. And that was actually sponsored by Tater Tot, my first dog's rescue. They're in Connecticut. It's called Lucky Dog Refuge. And as soon as I started the social media page, they had actually found me on TikTok, which was really cool because we were in the process of moving out of Connecticut. So they have followed me for the last 3 years and Tater Tot, and they followed along on Sweet Pea's journey. And they reached out and they offered to sponsor the heartworm treatment, even though Ruby's original rescue said it was not necessary and to do the slow kill method. Tater Tot's rescue advised me it is really important to do the treatment. It's not safe to let the heartworms stay around the heart, and we will pay for that along with getting her microchipped, which I am forever grateful for. It just shows how much they really care about all the dogs in their care and even the dogs that are no longer in their care. I thought that was so awesome. And it was a huge relief because I know those vet bills can be high, but Ruby is living her best life now. It still gives me goosebumps because I've at a time that I felt so alone and not supported and like I had made a huge mistake just trying to do something good. They reached out to me and I can't express how grateful I was because sometimes you just need a little bit of support to keep you going, if that makes sense. So everyone on social media who encouraged me and who donated, they really pushed me to keep going because there were so many days I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, I can't do this. There's no way I'll find her a home. I've exhausted all my options, running low on money. I'm only one person, and my mom helps dog sit my two dogs, but I can't push too much on her when I took on this big responsibility and I told her it was going to work out and I'll figure it out. And here I was crumbling all down. Everything was just crashing in on me. I'm really grateful for all the support. And I think it's a big learning lesson that you do have to do a lot of research, but you also really can't always do it alone. And sometimes you need to get some help, and it's okay to ask for help.
It is okay to ask for help. And I'm really glad that you were just really transparent about that whole thing there because what you went through was an exceptionally difficult situation. You had a rescue that was not helping you. You were paying for things that you shouldn't have had to pay for. You were being completely ignored. And fortunately, you were able to reach out to the community and on social media and find that support and find people to help you network and to get Ruby's information out there and, reconnect with Tater Tots Rescue and get them involved. What a beautiful story that not only this rescue that you rescued a dog from now has rescued another dog that you were trying to rescue. And now your friend has Ruby in his home. And it's just really like this whole chaotic, beautiful mess. But it is so hard to go through stuff like this, even if it's your own dogs and they get sick and the medical bills start piling up. And it's a big decision. And unfortunately, there are too many people out there, they don't follow through with that decision. I mean, technically, Ruby was not even technically your dog. You agreed to give her a place to stay until she could find her forever home. And you're over here mentally and emotionally struggling because you didn't have the support that you were told you were going to have to make sure that she gets the life that she deserves. And I think that it is absolutely incredible that you did not give up and that you persisted and that it turned out so beautifully. I really admire what you have done. And I just think that it is such a beautiful story, but it's also kind of a cautionary tale too, right? Because your feelings and your mental stability and emotional stability, all of that matters too. I'm sure Ruby the whole time was just like, I'm living the best life. Maybe she didn't like that she had to be alone, or maybe she didn't like the bedroom, or she didn't like that she had to be calm during the heartworm treatments and things like that. But dogs get over that kind of stuff a lot quicker than we do. And the cool thing about this is I would love to hear down the road, 6 months, a year from now, how Ruby is doing, because this is just the beginning of Ruby's story. I think a lot of people get tied up in the fact that, oh, I rescued this dog. My dog is a rescue dog. Well, 6 years later, that dog is not just a rescue dog anymore. That dog has been through things and experienced things and is part of your family. And the rescue part is just a teeny tiny part of that story. So I think if anything, you can come out of this knowing that this whole experience, this total chaos and calamity and just heart wrenching thing that you went through with her is just a tiny part of her life. And now she's getting to live the life that you wanted her to live. And how cool is that?
That's amazing. She gets
It
ice
is
cream every
amazing.
day. She really came out on top, and I honestly didn't think it would happen. So I'm very grateful. And as I've said before, I'm not sure if I want to test my luck and foster again. I hope one day, but I want to be so much more financially stable. I want to have a lot more money saved up because if this ever happens again, I don't want to have to also stress the financials on top of it. But as I said, I made a commitment and I just couldn't let down that dog. And I couldn't give up on vet care and make a bigger mess for myself financially or emotionally later on if I skimped on something to save a few dollars here or there. It put me in a bad situation, and I know hindsight is 2020. This could have all been avoided, but my family told me almost every week, just drop the dog off at a shelter. No one's going to know. Just drop it off. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I was determined. I had people at the bar say the same thing. Well, it's not your fault the rescue let you down, just drop it off. I mean, I have to go to bed at night. I have to be able to put my head on the pillow and sleep at night. I couldn't do that. So I don't know. I
I, you
should have
know,
done more research. It was
and
my fault. I could say that, but
I mean, it wasn't really your fault. Like you're just getting into this and not knowing that she didn't have a rescue to sponsor her and all that kind of stuff. Like these are the reasons that we're having these conversations, because there's so many people out there that have no idea how the rescue world works at all. So if we don't talk about it, then people aren't going to know. And I mean, you implemented things into your daily life so that she could stay with you, because you knew that her and Tot were not going to get along. So you found a way to keep her separated so that she could have one-on-one time with you and still stay with you until you could figure things out. I have told this story way, way back at the beginning of the year. I think it's in like episode number 22, where I had my first three dogs, and my two female dogs did not get along. And that's what I had to do. I had to keep them separate. And so when it got worse after I had just had my surgery. So here I am post surgery going through this emotional turmoil and all of this guilt about, how we have to keep the dogs separate, how, Izzy can be outside or she can be in the living room with whoever's in the living room, and Cajun and Fiona will stay in the bedroom with me, and then Cajun and Fiona will go in their kennels, and then Izzy will go in her kennel, and then Cajun and Fiona will go and do what Izzy was doing, and then Izzy can come out and hang out with me, right? So you find these ways to make it work, but in the end, it didn't turn out well for me. Unfortunately, Izzy had to be euthanized because she almost killed Fiona. And I was the same way. I was the same way as you. I was like, I will make this happen. I want her to, have a good life. I want her to be here and be part of the family. Hired special trainers and did everything that I could do. And unfortunately, not every story has a good ending. So despite the fact that you feel like there's some hindsight that was there and it was maybe not a great situation, you learned something. It turned out okay. And now you know more for the next time, which I bet there will be a next time. Maybe not right away, but I have a feeling that with that kind of personality and your level of determination, you will be ready to do it again someday. And maybe you'll have another foster win. Maybe you'll get your white dog to go with your brown dog and your black dog. Or maybe you'll just continue to find ways to be the segue between this is the foster home and now you're in your forever home.
I hope so. I think eventually. I don't think I could stay away because I see all the dogs online still. And I'm like, oh, I think this one would be a good fit. But then I remember, let's bring it back. We're still recovering here because, like you said, the emotional toll it takes, the guilt, the stress, the sleepless nights, trying to rotate, feel guilty again, trying to plan almost every minute of every day, just feeling so guilty if I have to leave the house because when I get back home, I know I got to let these ones out first and that one is still waiting and then I got to let the other one out. It was extremely stressful the entire time.
And I think that that's the part of dog ownership that we don't talk about enough, right? Because even now that you're just back to your own two dogs, you probably still feel guilty when you leave. And you probably still try to hurry home so
Yeah.
that they can have their potty breaks. And you probably still feel guilty if you decide that you don't feel like going for a walk that day, or maybe playtime is a little bit less because it's too hot outside. Or maybe you just need a break for you personally to lay in bed and relax for a day, because I'm sorry, but bartending is a hard job. I've been a bartender before. It's not an easy job. We've got people talking to you, you're slinging drinks, you're collecting money, people are impatient, loud. There's a lot going on in that environment. And sometimes when you come home from a job like that, you just want to cuddle up with your dogs and hang out. And unfortunately, dogs have needs too. And you can't just ignore them and not take care of them. But that's kind of the whole part of it, right? So just remember, as a dog owner, and this is for everyone, not just for you, that your happiness, your level of emotional stability, your self preservation is what makes your dog's life better. Because if you're not happy, your dog is not going to be happy. So you do have to take
Absolutely.
care of yourself too. And that's really important. And I'm glad that you advocated for yourself, and I'm glad that you asked for help, because that is so much needed in this community. People need to stop picking on each other and bad talking about each other or putting people down or the little online cliques or whatever, all of that stuff. Like community is what's important. Support is what is important. Helping people who are struggling through these really awful situations and don't know what to do or where to go. That is what I am trying so hard to create with this podcast, is just a place where people can go. We've had another person who had, a pretty rough situation with a fostering situation. I think episode like 5 or 6 with Jean. And she talks about, how she had a dog that was attacking her. The rescue didn't want to take the dog back for obvious reasons, but she was a fairly new foster parent. And here she is feeling all this guilt and shame and embarrassment because she can't handle this dog. It wasn't
Right.
her fault. She wasn't prepared for that. And like you said, there was nowhere for the dog to go after you took the dog. And if you had been put in a situation where the dog was attacking you, this story might have turned out very different. But fortunately, you got Ruby, who's just so fantastic and full of life and such a sweet, sweet girl. So you got lucky on that
Right.
end. It could have been worse, unfortunately. I mean, what could go wrong? Lots of things could go wrong, right? So
That is true. I never even thought of that being an option, to be honest, a dog attacking me, because as I said, a beginner. So I have my two dogs. I'm used to the breed. I'm used to how they act. And I'm thinking I'm getting this like shy, mild little pup who needs me to rescue them. And she was just the complete opposite. And I never even thought about what happens if I was attacked. That's a really good point. I would be really out of luck because there was no one's help. Even the original shelter that I got her from, I had called and said I really needed some help. Would you be able to even help me do meet and greets? Because I'm terrified of sending her off with a new family that I pick out just by myself. They told me, no, sorry. She's
wow.
legally owned by that rescue. You're going to have to contact them. And I said, they're not helping me with anything. I am terrified. I had her posted on Nextdoor, adoptapat.com, every Facebook group. And then I realized, wait a second, I can't do a background check on these people by myself. I have no authority here. What am I going to do? Just say bye-bye, see ya. I mean, think about how scary. I don't know. I just went into it totally blind, but I did get very lucky with her. I will say that.
Yeah, you did really get lucky. And I think that that is the biggest lesson that I want people to take away from this story, is that make sure that you should be able to return the dog to the rescue or even a
Hmm.
breeder. If you buy a dog from a breeder, you should be able to take the dog back if it doesn't work out. If something is wrong, if there's conflict in the home now, you should be able to take the dog back. They should be paying for the food. They should be paying for the medical bills. None of that should be coming out of your pocket personally. You always want to check and make sure that a rescue has a 501(c), legitimate nonprofit rescue. You need to make sure that they have the paperwork. You can actually ask the rescue to see their 501(c) because it is one of those things that they have to have as part of the nonprofit in order to be considered that division. They're not profiting off of the rescue of dogs. So I think that this is why working with smaller rescues is sometimes hard, but we've had a couple accounts on, like Flag the Breeders. We'll shout her out. She's a great resource to talk to. I think I actually, when we initially started talking, I connected you with Ashley and had you talk to her about what were maybe some of your options. And I don't think she had any connections in your area, unfortunately, but Ashley's a great resource for what you should look for in a rescue. So if you have questions about what to look for in a rescue or what to be wary of in a rescue, hit up Flag the Breeders and Ashley can answer a lot of those questions for you. And as far as stories go, like I said, this one turned out wonderfully. And I'm so glad that Ruby has a good home and that she's getting to live a wonderful life now. And I do want you to do an update and come back. But what I'd really like is I'd really like for you to come back and tell Tot and Sweet Pea's stories on another episode and let everybody get to kind of know them and hear their stories, because they're cuties and sweeties too. So, and they're both rescues, right?
Yes, Tater Tot is originally from Mississippi and he was brought up to Connecticut. And Sweet Pea, she is here from North Carolina from my first rescue that I tried to partner with and work with. So she is my little Sweet Pea that I had to keep because Tater Tot loved her. So I'm actually the person that really did adopt a dog for my dog. I just had to. I had to because he loved her so much. I've never seen him love a dog so much. He accepted her immediately and every day after that. And there would always be a dog he'd be friends with, but then one day it just didn't sit right with him. But her, it was match made in heaven from the start and ever since then. So we had to adopt a dog.
That's so sweet. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
so much. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for sharing this. I know that this has not been an easy journey for you, but you were strong and you persevered and you were so brave. And the community thanks you so much for donating your time and your love and helping Ruby find a home. If there's one piece of advice that you could give to the listeners out there, whether it's regarding being a dog mom or even watching your friend help a dog through heartworm treatment, what would be the piece of advice you'd like to leave the listeners with tonight?
I think my piece of advice is to always have fun with it, because having a dog, like having a child or taking care of any other living being, can be super stressful. But as you said, your dog only has as good of a day as you do. So if you can take any situation, whether it's a bad experience on a walk because they're reactive, or they're acting up in public and you're super embarrassed, and just make the best of it and stay positive, because you're always going to have bad days. You're always going to have setbacks, but cherish the time that you have with the dog and make it as fun as possible, because it should be fun. It will be stressful. It will be hard, but there are ways to make everything in life more enjoyable. So just keep an open heart and an open mind, because you'll make it through. If I can do it, you could do it.
But you just have such a positive attitude. I absolutely love that. What a beautiful message. Yeah, it's make it fun. And also, their time with us is so short. So enjoy every single minute of it. Don't waste it on the shoulda, coulda, wouldas when there's so much that there still can be. I just thank you so much for being here tonight, Caitlin. And I can't wait to have you back to share your personal story with Tot and Sweet Pea.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we will catch you next week on Straight Up Dog Talk. Thank you for listening. Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited and produced under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe and be sure you don't miss an episode. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.